The gallery breathed silence. Zara Lawal stood before a painting of fractured moonlight when she felt it. Him. She turned slowly. Lee Jae-minute stood across the marble floor, devastating in black, a Korean script tattoo curling up the side of his neck like smoke frozen against bronze skin. But it wasn't him that made her chest tighten. It was the woman beside him. His sister, fingers wrapped around his forearm. Not holding, claiming. Her smile was perfect. Her eyes were not. They found Zara across the room, and something cold slithered through the air. Danger dressed in silk. Zara should have walked away. She didn't. Welcome to a story of obsession, control, and the terrifying depths of forbidden love. If this journey moves you, please like, share, and subscribe. The Afro-Korean gallery occupied the top 3 floors of a glass tower in Victoria Island, Lagos. Tonight, it hosted the private unveiling of the Han Collection, a curated exhibition of contemporary Afro-Korean art that had drawn every name worth knowing in West African high society. Zara hadn't intended to stay long. She'd come as a favor to her business partner, Amara, who had designed the exhibition catalogue. A quick appearance. A glass of champagne she wouldn't finish. Then home to her sketchbooks and the silence she'd grown to crave. But the paintings held her. One in particular, a massive canvas of a woman drowning in flowers, her face serene even as petals filled her lungs, refused to release her gaze. You understand it. The voice came from her left. Low. Unhurried. Accented in a way that suggested multiple homelands. Zara turned. Lee Jae-minute stood 3 feet away, hands clasped behind his back. Tall. Broader than she'd expected. His black suit fit like architecture, precise and deliberate. The tattoo she'd noticed before climbed from beneath his collar, disappearing behind his E, Korean characters intertwined with what looked like Adinkra symbols. His face was constructed of sharp angles and controlled stillness. High cheekbones. A jaw that could cut glass. Eyes so dark they swallowed light. He wasn't looking at the painting. He was looking at her. The piece, Zara managed. You're asking if I understand the piece. I'm asking if you see what the artist intended. He stepped closer. Not threateningly, but not casually either. Most people see beauty. They miss the violence. Beauty can be violence. The words left her before she could filter them. The right face, the right touch. It can destroy you as completely as any weapon. Something flickered in his expression. Interest, recognition, pain. You speak from experience. I speak from observation. Careful observers, he said softly, often see too much. The air between them thickened. Then, Jae-minute. The voice cut through the gallery like a blade wrapped in velvet. Zara watched him change. Not dramatically, not obviously, but the subtle loosening around his mouth tightened. His shoulders drew back a millimeter. The warmth that had begun to enter his eyes shuttered. The woman who approached moved like water over stone, fluid, inevitable, consuming. She wore white against deep brown skin, her natural hair cropped close to her skull in a way that emphasized cheekbones sharp enough to mirror her brother's. Elegant. Stunning. Wrong. Zara couldn't identify the wrongness at first. The woman's smile was pleasant. Her posture was graceful. Everything about her presentation screamed refinement. But her eyes tracked Zara like a predator assessing whether prey was worth the effort of the kill. You found a new admirer for the collection. The woman linked her arm through her brother's, her fingers curling around his bicep. How fortunate. This is Suyan, Jae-minute said. His voice had flattened, stripped of the warmth from moments ago. My sister. Your shadow, Suyan corrected lightly. Someone has to protect you from yourself. Her gaze slid to Zara. And from those who would take advantage of your generous nature. The words were polite. The message was not. Zara held the woman's stare. Zara Lawal. I design textiles. Your family's collection is remarkable. It is. Suyan's smile widened without reaching her eyes. We're quite protective of remarkable things. Jae-minute's jaw tightened. Suyan. The minister is asking for you. Suyan's grip on his arm tightened visibly. Something about the foundation merger. I told him you'd only be a moment. It was a dismissal. Of Zara. Of the conversation. Of whatever fragile connection had been forming. Jae-minute hesitated. For one breath. Two. His eyes held Zara's. Something desperate lived in that gaze. something that looked almost like pleading. Then he looked away. It was a pleasure, Miss Lawal. Zara, she corrected quietly. He nodded once, then allowed his sister to guide him across the gallery floor. But Sian paused, turned back. Her smile remained fixed, but her voice dropped to something meant only for Zara. He forgets, sometimes, what's best for him. Her fingers traced small circles on her brother's arm. Fortunately, I never do. They disappeared into the crowd. Zara stood frozen before the painting of the drowning woman. Her champagne had gone warm in her hand. Later that evening. You're distracted. Amara's voice cut through Zara's thoughts as they waited for the valet to bring Amara's car around. The Lagos night wrapped around them, humid air, distant traffic, the perpetual pulse of a city that never fully slept. I'm tired, Zara deflected. You're never tired. You're relentless. Amara studied her face. Who was the man? The one by the drowning painting. Lee Jae-minute. The collection belongs to his family. And the woman who looked at you like you'd stolen something from her. Zara's stomach tightened. His sister. Ah. Amara's tone shifted. That explains the energy. What energy? The touch him and I'll destroy you energy. Amara accepted her keys from the approaching valet. I've seen it before. Certain families, the bonds twist into something else. Something territorial. She paused. Something sick. You're being dramatic. And you're being dismissive. Which usually means you noticed something that scared you. Zara didn't respond. Because Amara was right. She had noticed something. In the way Sian's fingers had pressed into her brother's arm. Not affectionately but possessively. In the way Jae-minut's entire demeanor had shifted in his sister's presence. Some vital part of him dimming, retreating. In the way he'd looked at Zara like someone drowning might look at distant shore. He forgets what's best for him. Fortunately, I never do. Stay away from that family, Amara said quietly. Whatever's happening there, it's not something you want to walk into. Zara nodded. She had no intention of seeing Lee Jae-minute again. 3 days later, the fabric warehouse occupied a converted building in Yaba, industrial metal and concrete softened by bolts of cloth in every color imaginable. Zara had built her textile business from this space, transforming African prints into contemporary designs that had caught the attention of fashion houses from Lagos to Milan. She was arguing with a supplier about thread count when she felt it again. That presence. She turned. Lee Jae-minute stood in the warehouse doorway, sunlight cutting around his frame. No suit today, dark jeans, a black shirt open at the collar, revealing the edge of his tattoo. More casual, but no less intense. The supplier continued talking. Zara heard nothing but her own pulse. Mr. Lee. She kept her voice steady. Professional. You're far from the gallery. I am. He stepped inside, his gaze moving across the warehouse, the fabric bolts, the cutting tables, the mood boards covered in her sketches. Taking inventory. Understanding. Your work. My business. My designs. She dismissed the supplier with a gesture, turning to face Jae-minute fully. I'm assuming this isn't a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. Then how did you find me? I asked. He moved closer, pausing before a bolt of fabric, indigo stitched with gold geometric patterns. His fingers brushed the material. This is extraordinary. That's 3 months of work. It looks like armor. He turned to face her. Beautiful armor. The kind that could protect someone from anything. Or hide them from everything. His expression flickered. There, gone. But she'd seen it. Recognition. Of something she hadn't meant to reveal. Why are you here, Mr. Lee? Jae-minute. Why are you here, Jae-minute? He was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice had dropped lower, rougher. I wanted to see you again. He paused. I don't know why. I don't know what I expect to happen. I only know that 3 days ago, you looked at a painting and described it in a way that made me feel seen. And I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Zara's breath caught. You don't know me. No. He stepped closer. But I want to. Your sister wouldn't approve. Something dark crossed his features. My sister's approval is not the deciding factor in my life. Isn't it? The question hung between them. Jae-minut's jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought he would deny it. would defend whatever dynamic existed between him and Soo-yeon. Instead, he said quietly, "Perhaps it has been for too long." The admission was small, but it cracked something open. "One coffee," Zara heard herself say. "A public place. And you tell me why every woman at that gallery seemed afraid to look at you." His mouth curved, not quite a smile, but close. "You notice that?" "I told you. I observe." "Then you should know." He moved closer, close enough that she could smell him, something warm and woody and expensive. "Observing me may be dangerous." "Is that a warning?" "It's the truth." His dark eyes held hers. "Everyone who gets close to me eventually leaves, or is made to leave." Made by whom? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The following afternoon, the cafe overlooked the lagoon, all white walls and wicker furniture. Expensive, discreet, the kind of place where powerful people came to have conversations they didn't want overheard. Zara arrived first. Jae-minute arrived precisely on time. He looked tired, shadows beneath his eyes that hadn't been there at the gallery. He ordered black coffee and didn't touch it, sitting across from her while afternoon light played across his features. The tattoo on his neck seemed darker today, more visible. "Tell me about it," she said, gesturing to the ink. His hand lifted unconsciously, fingers brushing the design. "It's a memorial. My mother's family in Nigeria, her lineage symbols. My father's name in Korean." He paused. "I got it when I was 18. The day I inherited control of the family foundation." "Not your father." "My father died when I was 12. My mother 6 months later." Some said grief. Others said she couldn't live without him. His voice remained flat. Recitation, not remembrance. "My sister was 15. She became my guardian until I came of age." "Your sister raised you." "She protected me." He finally lifted his coffee, more for something to do with his hands than genuine thirst. "In her view, she's never stopped. Protection can become a prison." He set the cup down hard. "Yes." Silence stretched between them. "How many relationships?" Zara asked quietly. "How many women have disappeared?" His head snapped up. "How did you?" "The gallery. The way people looked at you. Not with attraction. With pity." She leaned forward. "And the way your sister looked at me. Like I was a threat she needed to neutralize." "You should walk away." His voice was rough, desperate. "Whatever this is between us, whatever pull I feel, it will end badly for you. It always does. Tell me how." "I don't know the details. I never do." He pressed his palms flat against the table, his tattoo stark against his skin. "A woman gets close to me. Things are good. Then something changes. She becomes distant, makes excuses, eventually leaves without explanation. And you never question it." "I've questioned everything." His eyes met hers, and the pain there stole her breath. "But questioning and finding answers are different things. And by the time I start looking, they are already gone." "Have you asked your sister?" He went still, dangerously still. "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm asking a direct question." Zara held his gaze. "Have you ever asked Soo-yeon what happens to the women who get close to you?" "She protects me. She controls you." "You don't understand our family." "Then help me understand." Zara reached across the table, her fingers brushing his knuckles. His entire body tensed at the contact. "Help me see what I'm walking into." "Walking into?" He pulled his hand back sharply. "I told you to walk away. And yet you're still here. You found my warehouse. You came today." She didn't retreat. "Some part of you wants someone to see the truth, Jae-minute, even if the rest of you is terrified of what that means." His breathing had quickened, his composure cracking at the edges. 3 years ago," he said finally, "a woman named Adana. We were together for 8 months. I was going to propose." "What happened?" "She sent a message. Said she'd met someone else. Blocked my number. Moved continents." His voice dropped to something barely audible. 3 months later, I heard she'd had a breakdown. Spent time in a facility. She still doesn't speak to anyone from her previous life." Zara's stomach turned. "And before her?" "A woman in Seoul. A professor in London. A curator in New York." He listed them like casualties. Different women. Different circumstances. Same result. They get close to me, and then they shatter. That's not coincidence. No. His eyes were dark wells. It's something worse. Outside the cafe, Zara walked beside him along the waterfront, the Lagos sun beginning its descent toward the horizon. Neither spoke for several minutes. Finally, she asked, "Do you want the truth? Even if it destroys something you believed your entire life?" "I don't know what I believe anymore." "That's not an answer." He stopped walking, turned to face her. The light caught the angles of his face, making him look both ancient and impossibly young. "I've spent 20 years being protected by my sister, believing that protection was love." His voice cracked on the last word. "If that's a lie, if everything I've accepted is a manipulation, then I don't know who I am. Then maybe it's time to find out. With you." "I'm not promising anything." Zara met his gaze steadily. "But I'm not walking away either. Not until I understand what's happening. And not while you're looking at me like you're drowning." "I might be." "Then I suggest you start swimming." She left him standing there. When she glanced back from the corner, he hadn't moved. But his hand was pressed against the tattoo on his neck, holding something, or trying to let it go. 1 week later, Zara had always been methodical. It was how she'd built her business: patient research, careful planning, calculated risks. She applied the same approach to Lee Jae-minute. Public records told her the family's wealth came from a combination of mining interests in Nigeria and technology investments in South Korea. The Han Foundation, which Jae-minute nominally controlled, funded education and arts initiatives across both countries. But the real power, she noticed, seemed to flow through Soo-yeon. Board meetings where Jae-minute was listed as chair but Soo-yeon attended as advisor. Charitable events where his photo appeared but her name dominated the planning committees. Business partnerships where his signature was present but her fingerprints covered the negotiations. He was the face. She was the force. "You're digging into dangerous territory." Amora's voice came through the phone line, her concern evident even through the speaker. "I'm being careful. You're being obsessive. There's a difference." Pause. "What did you find?" "Nothing concrete. Just patterns." Zara scrolled through another financial report. "She's involved in everything. Every business decision. Every public appearance. Every aspect of his life. Some siblings are close. This isn't close. This is containment." "Zara." "I talked to someone. A journalist who covered the family 5 years ago." Zara's voice lowered. "He said there were rumors. About women who got too close to Jae-minute. About accidents. Scandals. Things that seemed random but weren't. Rumors aren't evidence." "No. But the journalist. He stopped covering the family after receiving a visit from someone representing their legal team." Zara pulled up another file. "He moved to Ghana. Changed careers entirely. When I tracked him down, he hung up as soon as I mentioned the Han name." "This should be warning enough." "It's not. It's motivation." "To do what?" "Save a man you've known for 2 weeks. A billionaire with resources you can't imagine, and a sister who apparently destroys anyone who threatens her hold on him." Zara didn't answer. Because Amara was right. This was madness. And yet, every time she considered walking away, she remembered his eyes at the gallery, at the cafe, the desperate hunger for someone, anyone, to see past the mask he'd been forced to wear. "He's drowning," Zara said softly. "Then let the Coast Guard save him." "What if no one else can see it? What if I'm the only one who's ever really looked?" Silence on the line. Then Amara sighed. "You're going to do this regardless of what I say." "Probably." "Then be careful. And keep me informed." Another pause. "If you disappear, I need to know where to point the authorities." 3 days later, the restaurant was intimate, upscale. The kind of place where reservations required connections rather than money. Jae-minute had suggested it. Soo-yeon had shown up uninvited. She materialized at the table like a summoned spirit, sliding into the booth beside her brother before either of them could object. Her white dress was immaculate. Her smile was practiced perfection. "You've been spending time together," she said pleasantly, signaling for a savor. "How lovely that Jae-minute has made a new friend." "Soo-yeon," Jae-minute's voice held warning. "I worry, you know, after everything that's happened." She patted his hand, her fingers lingering too long. "Other women have been unsuitable, unstable. I'd hate to see history repeat itself. The women weren't unstable, Zara said quietly. Before they met your brother. The silence that followed was glacial. Sion's smile remained in place, but her eyes went cold. Flat. The eyes of something calculating distance and velocity. Excuse me. I've done some research. Zara kept her voice level. Adana Okonjo. Before she met J Minute, she was a successful architect. After, hospitalized. Career destroyed. Jian Park in Seoul, rising academic, brilliant researcher. After your brother, left the country, changed her name, hasn't published in 5 years. Coincidence, Sion said smoothly. Oh, evidence that my brother has unfortunate taste in women who reveal instabilities when placed under the pressure of our family's public life. And if the pressure was manufactured, if someone systematically targeted these women, undermined their confidence, sabotaged their relationships, drove them to breaking points, that would require evidence. Sion's voice remained pleasant, but her posture had shifted. Predatory. Do you have any? Not yet. Then perhaps you should be careful about making accusations. She rose gracefully, smoothing her dress. Defamation is expensive. For some people, it's devastating. She bent to kiss her brother's cheek, her eyes holding Zara's the entire time. Enjoy your evening. I'll see you at home. She disappeared into the restaurant's dim lighting. J Minute hadn't spoken. Zara turned to find him staring at the table, his hands flat against the surface, trembling almost imperceptibly. She knows, he said quietly. She knows what you're looking for. Was I right? His hands clenched into fists. Was I right, J Minute? When he finally looked up, his eyes were wet. I don't know. I've never let myself ask. His voice broke. Because if the answer is yes, if everything she's done has been to keep me alone, keep me dependent, then my entire life is a lie. And everyone who ever cared about me was destroyed because of me. Not because of you. Zara reached across the table, covering his fists with her hands. Because of her. There's a difference. She's my sister. My blood. The only family I have left. Family doesn't give someone the right to own you. He stared at her hands on his. Then slowly, painfully, he turned his hands over. Opened them. Let her fingers intertwine with his. If you stay, he said hoarsely, she will try to destroy you. I know. She's never failed before. Then I'll be the first. Why? Why would you risk this? For someone you barely know. Zara considered the question. Considered the practical answer, that she was stubborn, that she hated injustice, that she refused to walk away from a puzzle unsolved. Then she considered the truth. Because no one should spend their life in a cage, she said softly. Even if the bars are invisible. Even if they've forgotten what freedom feels like. His grip on her hands tightened. In the candlelight, his tattoo seemed to pulse against his skin. 2 weeks later, the breakthrough came unexpectedly. Zara had been searching through old news archives when a name caught her attention. Dr. Folake Adeyemi, a psychiatrist who had briefly appeared in connection with the Han Foundation's mental health initiatives before mysteriously resigning. Track her down. Dr. Adeyemi lived in a modest apartment in Ikoyi now, having traded her thriving practice for near occlusion. She was reluctant to speak at first. Then Zara mentioned Adana Okonjo. The doctor's face went pale. I shouldn't talk about this. I signed agreements. Agreements designed to protect whom? You don't understand what that family is capable of. I understand that women are being destroyed. Systematically. Deliberately. Zara leaned forward. And I understand that you know something about how it happens. Dr. Adeyemi was silent for a long moment. Then she closed her eyes. The sister. Sion. Her voice was barely audible. She approached me 5 years ago. Wanted to consult about behavioral intervention. How to influence someone's mental state without detection. Influence how? Gaslighting. Isolation techniques. Systematic destabilization. The doctor's hands trembled. She said it was theoretical. Research for a novel. But the questions were too specific. Too methodical. You refused to help. I reported my concerns to the medical board. Dr. Adeyemi opened her eyes. 2 weeks later, complaints were filed against me. False allegations from patients I'd never seen. By the time it was sorted out, My reputation was destroyed. She did this to you. For refusing. I can't prove it. But you know. Yes. The word was barely a whisper. I know. That evening, Zara found Jae-minute at his penthouse. She hadn't been there before, hadn't wanted to enter Seyun's territory. But this couldn't wait. The apartment was everything she expected and nothing like she'd imagined. Expensive. Modern. But cold. No personal touches. No warmth. A beautiful cage. Jae-minute met her at the door, his face tight with concern. You shouldn't be here. Seyun is out. I checked. Zara stepped inside, closing the door behind her. We need to talk. She told him everything. Dr. Adeyemi's account. The systematic approach Seyun had researched. The patterns that suddenly made horrifying sense. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he stood at the window, staring out at the Lagos skyline, his back to her. The tattoo on his neck was dark against his skin, catching the city lights. When I was 18, he said finally, I fell in love for the first time. A girl named Yemi. We were going to travel together after I finished university. What happened? She started pulling away, making excuses. Then one day, she told me she'd been seeing someone else. That everything between us had been a mistake. His voice was hollow. I found out later she'd had a breakdown. Spent months in treatment. She blamed herself for everything. And Seyun comforted me, told me some people weren't strong enough for our family's world. He pressed his palm against the glass. I believed her. I've always believed her. Jae-minute. Do you know what she told me after our parents died? He turned to face Zara, his eyes devastated. She said we only had each other now. That the world would try to separate us, but she would never let that happen. That her purpose, her only purpose, was to protect me. Protection that isolates isn't love. It's control. I know that now. He crossed the room, stopping in front of her, close enough to touch. I've known for a long time, I think. But knowing and accepting are different things. What do you want to do? I want. His voice broke. He lifted his hand, hovering near her face without quite making contact. I want to be free. For the first time in my life, I want to choose something for myself. Then choose. His hand finally touched her cheek. Gentle. Trembling. I'm choosing you. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I'm choosing whatever this is. Even if it destroys everything I thought I knew. She'll fight. Yes. She might win. She might. He stepped closer, his forehead touching hers. But I'd rather fail trying than spend the rest of my life wondering what freedom felt like. The next morning, Seyun was waiting when they came downstairs. She sat at the penthouse's dining table, coffee untouched before her posture perfect and her expression serene. She'd clearly been there for hours, watching, waiting. You stayed the night, she said pleasantly, her gaze fixed on Zara. How progressive. Seyun. Jae-minut's voice was steady, but Zara could feel the tension radiating from him. We need to talk. Clearly. She rose gracefully, smoothing her dress. Although I'm not certain what there is to discuss. You've made your position rather evident. I want the truth. About what? About Adana, Jian, everyone who came before. He stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of Zara. I want to know what you did. Something flickered in Seyun's expression. There, gone. I protected you. By destroying people I cared about. By removing threats. Her voice sharpened. You don't understand what people want from you, Jae-minute. Your money, your status, your power. They don't see you, they see what you can give them. Zara sees me. Zara is no different. Seyun's gaze cut to her, cold and calculating. She's simply better at hiding her ambition. You're wrong. Am I? Seyun moved around the table, approaching them with measured steps. You've known her a month. I've known you your entire life. Who understands you better? Who has sacrificed more? Sacrifice? Jae-minut's voice cracked. You destroyed innocent women. Made them think they were losing their minds. Drove them away from everything they knew. I saved you from making mistakes. They weren't mistakes. They were distractions. For the first time, Seyun's composure fractured. Her voice rose, Her eyes blazed. Every woman who touched you was pulling you away from what matters. From our family. From our legacy. From me. The word hung in the air. Me. Not us. Not the family. Me. You're not protecting him, Zara said quietly. You're possessing him. Seon's head snapped toward her. You don't know anything about our relationship. I know it's not healthy. I know you've spent 20 years keeping him dependent on you. I know that every time he tried to build something real, you tore it down because you couldn't stand to share him. Share him. Seon laughed. A harsh, brittle sound. I made him. Our parents died, and I raised him. I shaped him. Every success he has is because of me. He belongs. She stopped, but the word was already there, unspoken but understood. He belongs to me. Seon. Jaemin's voice was broken. Lost. I'm your brother, not your property. You don't understand. Her eyes were bright now. Feverish. You've never understood. I gave up everything for you. My youth. My freedom. My chance at my own life. Also you could thrive. So you could succeed. And this is how you repay me? By choosing some woman you just met over the person who sacrificed everything. You chose to make those sacrifices. I never asked. You didn't have to ask. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face even as her expression remained fierce. That's what love is, Jaemin. Sacrifice. Devotion. Putting someone else above everything, including yourself. And I have loved you that way for 20 years. That's not love, Zara said softly. That's obsession. Seon's attention swung to her, dangerous and fractured. You think you can replace me? You think a few weeks of his attention means anything compared to decades of devotion? She stepped closer to Zara, her voice dropping. I've broken stronger women than you. Destroyed careers. Shattered minds. And I did it without leaving fingerprints. Seon, stop. Jaemin moved between them. No. She needs to understand what she's walking into. Seon's eyes never left Zara's face. Every woman before you thought she was different. Thought she understood him. Thought love would be enough. Her smile was terrible. It wasn't. It never is. Because at the end of the day, Jaemin always comes back to me. Always. Not this time. Jaemin's voice cut through the room. He stepped forward, placing himself fully between his sister and Zara. I'm done. His voice was steady now. Resolved. Whatever this is, whatever you think we have, it ends now. I love you. You're my sister. But I won't let you destroy anyone else. I won't let you control me anymore. Seon's face went white. You don't mean that. I do. You can't survive without me. I don't know if that's true, but I'm going to find out. He took a breath. I want you to leave. Tonight. The foundation will provide you with whatever resources you need, but you won't be making decisions for me anymore. You won't have access to my schedule, my contacts, or my life. Jaemin. This is over, Seon. For a long moment, no one moved. Then something shifted in Seon's expression. The tears stopped. The desperation hardened into something else. Something that looked like calculation. Very well. Her voice was eerily calm. If that's your decision. She walked toward the door, pausing with her hand on the frame. But remember, little brother. She didn't turn around. You're only free when I decide you are. And I haven't decided anything yet. The door closed behind her. The silence that followed was suffocating. Hours later, she won't give up. Zara stood by the window, watching the sunset over Lagos. That wasn't surrender. That was recalibration. I know. Jaemin came up behind her, his hand settling on her shoulders. She's planning something. Then we prepare. How? You don't know what she's capable of. I'm beginning to understand. Zara turned in his arms, looking up at his face, the face that had haunted her since the gallery, now open and vulnerable in a way she suspected it had never been before. The question is whether you're ready for what comes next. Which is exposing her, everything she's done, the women she's destroyed, the psychiatrist she silenced, all of it. That would devastate her. She's devastated others. She's my sister. Zara reached up, touching the tattoo on his neck. The Korean characters, the Adinkra symbols, the memorial to parents he'd lost and an identity he'd never fully claimed. "Then you have a choice," she said softly. "Protect her and remain a prisoner, or free yourself and accept the consequences." He closed his eyes. His arms tightened around her. "I choose you," he whispered. "Whatever comes, I choose this. I choose freedom." 1 week later, the next 7 days were a careful dance. Soo-yeon had moved into a luxury hotel, technically compliant with Jae-min's demand that she leave the penthouse, but close enough to maintain surveillance. Her absence from his daily life was notable, but her presence lingered in 1,000 small ways. Meetings mysteriously cancelled, documents that went missing, staff members who became suddenly unavailable. She was sending a message: "I am still here. I am still watching. I can still touch you." Zara documented everything. She'd been careful before, but now she became meticulous. Every strange occurrence, every coincidence, every small sabotage. She built a timeline, cross-referenced with the patterns she'd identified from previous relationships. The picture that emerged was chilling. Soo-yeon's method was sophisticated. She never attacked directly. Instead, she created circumstances, small erosions of confidence, manufactured conflicts, subtle isolations, that accumulated until her targets began to doubt their own perceptions. Gaslighting on a systematic scale. The women Jae-min had loved hadn't been weak or unstable. They'd been made that way. "You're not sleeping." Jae-min found her in the early hours, hunched over her laptop in his study. "You need to rest." "I'll rest when this is finished." He came up behind her, looking at the screen. The documents she'd compiled, the evidence she was gathering. "This could take months," he said quietly. "Years. She's been covering her tracks for 2 decades. Then we work faster." Or, he turned her chair, kneeling in front of her. His dark eyes were shadowed but determined. "We take what we have now. Go public. Force her into the light. We don't have enough proof. She'll deny everything. Make us look paranoid. Maybe turn the narrative against us. So we find more proof." How? Her victims won't talk. She's terrified them into silence. The psychiatrist already lost everything once. Who would risk? Zara stopped, an idea forming. Terrible, risky, but possibly necessary. "What?" Jae-min caught her expression. "What are you thinking?" "She's already targeting me. The small sabotages, they're escalating." Zara met his eyes. "What if we let her? What if we give her enough rope to hang herself?" "No." Jae-min. "Absolutely not." He stood abruptly, pacing away. "You've seen what she's done to others, how she's broken them. I won't let you become her next victim. I won't break." "Everyone says that." "I'm not everyone." Zara rose, following him across the room. "I know what she's doing. I can document it in real time. Build a case that can't be dismissed as paranoia or coincidence. The risk is too high. The reward is your freedom. And justice for everyone she's hurt." Zara caught his arm, turning him to face her. "This isn't something I'm doing to you. It's something I'm doing with you. For both of us. You could be destroyed in the process. Or I could be the one who finally stops her." He stared at her for a long moment. Then his hand came up, cupping her face. The tattoo on his wrist was stark against her skin, dark ink on warm bronze. "If anything happens to you, then you'll have documentation of exactly who did it and how." She turned her head, pressing a kiss to his palm. "I'm not going into this blind. And I'm not going alone. You're asking me to watch her hurt you. I'm asking you to let me fight. For you. For us." Her voice softened. "For a future neither of us believed was possible 3 months ago." He closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. "I will never forgive myself if this destroys you. Then help me make sure it doesn't." 3 weeks later, the campaign began subtly. Small things at first. Zara's fabric supplier suddenly unable to fulfill orders due to unexpected complications. A key investor in her business receiving anonymous information suggesting financial irregularities. A journalist she'd cultivated calling to apologize. She'd received pressure to drop a favorable profile. Soo-yeon was circling, tightening the noose. Zara documented every incident. Cross-reference with phone records Jae-min was able to obtain. built a digital trail that showed communication between Soo-yeon and every party involved in the coincidences targeting her business. But she needed more. She needed Soo-yeon to cross a line that couldn't be explained away. The opportunity came unexpectedly. A charity gala. The kind of event Soo-yeon couldn't resist attending, both for image maintenance and for the chance to remind her brother's new partner exactly who held the power. Zara chose her dress carefully, deep blue silk that she designed herself, fabric armor that fit like a second skin. Jae-min's hand rested on her lower back as they entered, his tattoo visible at his collar, his presence solid and reassuring. Soo-yeon found them within minutes. She was immaculate as always, white gown, understated jewelry, perfect composure. Anyone watching would see a woman graciously greeting her brother's companion. Only Zara saw the blade behind the smile. "You look lovely," Soo-yeon said pleasantly. "That fabric is extraordinary. Your own design." "Yes. How talented you are. It's a shame about the business troubles. I heard there were some irregularities with your suppliers. Nothing that can't be resolved. Of course, these things have a way of working themselves out." Soo-yeon's gaze flickered to Jae-min, lingering too long. Or escalating beyond repair. One never knows. Indeed. Zara kept her voice steady. Unpredictable circumstances can strike anyone. Even the most careful people sometimes find their private actions becoming unexpectedly public. Something flickered in Soo-yeon's expression. There, gone. But Zara had seen it. Fear. Soo-yeon recovered instantly, her smile widening. How philosophical. "You must excuse me. There are donors to greet." She glided away into the crowd. Jae-min's hand tightened on Zara's back. "What did you just do? Planted a seed?" Zara's heart was racing, but her voice remained calm. "Let's see what grows." Later that evening, the bathroom was empty when Zara entered. It was not empty when she tried to leave. Soo-yeon stood between her and the door, all pretense of civilized behavior stripped away. Her eyes were feverish, desperate, the mask finally cracking. "You think you're clever." Her voice was a hiss, dropping hints about exposure. "Trying to intimidate me." And now, silence. 3 days without contact. No texts, no threats, no mysterious sabotage. The quiet was worse than anything. "She's planning something." Jae-min's voice came from behind her. He hadn't slept properly since the gala, shadows carved beneath his eyes, his usual composure fraying at the edges. "This isn't retreat. It's preparation." "I know. We should release the recording. Go to the authorities. Force her hand before she can." "And say what?" "That your sister threatened me in a bathroom." Zara turned to face him. "The recording is damning, but it's not proof of past crimes." She admitted to a pattern, but without corroborating evidence from her previous victims, it becomes her word against ours. "Then we find the victims. Convince them to speak." "I've tried." Zara's voice was heavy. "Adana won't return my calls. Jian's family says she's moved somewhere without forwarding information. The psychiatrist, Dr. Adeyemi, has gone completely silent since I last spoke with her. Soo-yeon got to them. Or they are too afraid to risk what little stability they've rebuilt." Zara crossed to him, her hand finding his. The tattoo on his wrist felt warm beneath her fingers, life pulsing through ink and skin. "We need something else. Something she can't dismiss or intimidate away." "What?" "I don't know yet." His jaw tightened. "Then we're trapped, waiting for her to strike while she—" His phone rang. They both froze. The screen displayed a single word. "Sister." "Don't answer it," Zara said immediately. "If I don't, she'll know we're afraid. If you do, she'll try to manipulate you." "She can try." His eyes met hers, dark, determined, haunted. "But I'm not the person she shaped anymore. Thanks to you." He answered. "Soo-yeon." Zara couldn't hear the other end of the conversation, but she watched Jae-min's face cycle through emotions. Tension, confusion, something that looked almost like pain. "When?" he asked. Pause. "No. I don't believe." Another pause. Longer. "I'll come. But this changes nothing between us." He ended the call. "What happened?" Zara demanded. "She says she's leaving. Permanently." His voice was hollow. She's asking to see me one last time before she goes. It's a trap. Probably. Then you can't go. I have to. He lifted his hand, showing her the phone. She sent documentation. Flight records to Seoul. Property transfers. She's liquidating her Lagos assets. That doesn't mean anything. She could be manufacturing evidence, creating a false trail while or she could be telling the truth, accepting that she's lost, choosing to walk away rather than face exposure. His expression was tortured. Zara, if there's even a chance this ends without more destruction. You want to believe her. The accusation hung in the air. Jae-minute closed his eyes. She raised me. She was there when no one else was. Part of me will always love her. I know. Zara's voice softened despite her fear. And she's counting on that. On your compassion. Your loyalty. Your inability to completely let go. What would you have me do? Ignore her forever. Wait for the other shoe to drop while I would have you protect yourself. For once in your life. I am. He reached for her, his hands settling on her shoulders. By bringing you with me. That evening, the address Seon had provided led to a private residence in Ikoyi, not her hotel, but an older property that Zara didn't recognize. Georgian architecture. Mature gardens. The kind of place old money retreated to avoid new scrutiny. This was our parents' house, Jae-minute explained as they approached. Rain still misted around them, the air heavy with petrichor and tension. She's been maintaining it since they died. I haven't been inside in years. Why here? I don't know. The door opened before they could knock. Seon stood in the entryway, and for a moment, Zara didn't recognize her. Gone was the immaculate presentation, the razor-sharp composure. Her hair was loose, uncombed. Her dress was simple. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She looked diminished. Careful, Zara warned herself. This could be another mask. You came. Seon's voice was hoarse. Both of you. You asked for a final conversation. Jae-minut's tone was guarded. I'm here. Not alone. No, not alone. He glanced at Zara. Those days are over. Something flickered across Seon's face. Pain, resentment, resignation, before she stepped back, gesturing them inside. The house was beautiful and frozen. Museum-quality furniture. Photographs of the deceased parents. Everything preserved exactly as it must have been 20 years ago, when death had first shattered this family. I've been sleeping here since the gala, Seon said, leading them to a sitting room. Trying to understand what went wrong. What went wrong? Zara couldn't keep the edge from her voice. You systematically destroyed every relationship your brother attempted to build. You psychologically manipulated vulnerable women until they broke. You. I know what I did. Seon's voice was sharp, then softer, defeated. I know all of it. She sank into an armchair, suddenly looking decades older than her years. When our parents died, she began. I was 15. Jae-minute was 12. Everyone told me to be strong, to hold the family together, to protect him. Her eyes went distant. So I did. I made it my entire existence. And somewhere along the way, protecting him became controlling him, needing him, being unable to imagine a life where he didn't need me in return. That's not an excuse, Zara said. I know it isn't. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Seon's gaze shifted to her brother. I'm asking you to understand that I never intended to become this. I was a child who was given too much responsibility, and I twisted it into something monstrous. And the women you destroyed. Jae-minut's voice was raw. They were collateral damage. I convinced myself they were threats, that they would hurt you, abandon you, break you the way losing our parents broke me. Tears tracked down Seon's cheeks. I told myself I was protecting you from pain. But the truth is, I was protecting myself from losing you. The room fell silent except for the rain against the windows. Why tell us this now? Zara asked finally. Why admit everything when you could have kept fighting? Seon laughed. A broken, hollow sound. Because I lost anyway. The moment you recorded me, the moment my brother chose you over his own sister, I lost everything I'd spent 20 years building. She rose, moving to a cabinet and retrieving a leather folder. Flight records. Asset transfers. Letters to everyone I've harmed, admitting what I did. She handed the folder to J-Minute. I'm leaving for Seoul tomorrow. I've arranged treatment there. Intensive psychological work. It will take years, if it works at all. J-Minute opened the folder, scanning the documents. His hands were trembling. This is real, he said quietly. These aren't forgeries. I have nothing left to gain from lies. Seon's eyes met his, and nothing left to lose from truth. The letters to your victims will be delivered tomorrow. Each one includes contact information for my attorneys, who have been instructed to provide whatever support is requested. Financial compensation, public statements, whatever they need. And you expect us to believe this is genuine? Zara stepped forward. That you've suddenly developed a conscience. I don't expect you to believe anything. I expect you to verify. Seon's gaze was steady despite her tears. Call the airlines. Contact the treatment facility. Reach out to my lawyers. Everything will confirm what I'm telling you. Why should I trust verification when you've spent 20 years manufacturing evidence? You shouldn't. That's the point. Seon took a shaky breath. Trust is something I destroyed long ago, in others, and in myself. I'm not asking for trust. I'm asking for the chance to prove, over time, that I can change. She turned to J-Minute. I know I have no right to ask anything of you. But if you could, someday, when I've proven myself, consider. Consider what? Letting me be your sister again. Not the way I was before. Something healthier. Something real. J-Minute stared at her for a long moment. Then he closed the folder. I need time. I know. I'm not forgiving you. I know that too. But, his voice cracked. I hope you're telling the truth. I hope you can become someone better. Because despite everything. He couldn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Despite everything, she was still his sister. Still the person who had held him when their parents died. Still blood. Some bonds, even twisted ones, couldn't be completely severed. 1 week later, everything checked out. Zara had investigated obsessively every document in that folder, every claim Seon had made. The flight records were genuine. The treatment facility in Seoul confirmed her admission. Her Lagos assets were indeed being liquidated, proceeds directed to accounts AMAC for victim compensation. The letters had been delivered, and slowly, tentatively, the silence began to break. Adana Okonjo called first. Her voice was thin, fragile, but there was something new in it, cautious hope. I received a letter, she said, explaining everything, apologizing, offering support. How do you feel about it? Zara asked. I don't know. Angry, relieved, confused. Pause. Part of me wants to believe she's changed. Another part remembers how convincing she was when she was destroying my life. Both reactions are valid. She mentioned you. In the letter. Said you were the one who finally stopped her. Another pause. Longer. Thank you. For fighting when the rest of us couldn't. You couldn't because you were surviving. There's no shame in that. Still. Adana's voice strengthened slightly. If you need someone to corroborate what happened, if it comes to legal action, I'll speak. I'm ready now. Similar calls came over the following days. Ji-Yun, from an undisclosed location in Canada. Dr. Adeyemi, tentatively emerging from her self-imposed isolation. 2 other women Zara hadn't even identified, victims from earlier in Seon's campaign, their damage buried so deep it had never surfaced publicly. A pattern of destruction becoming a pattern of testimony. Not for prosecution. Seon had removed herself from jurisdiction, and the evidence of her crimes was largely psychological rather than criminal. But for validation. For the victims to finally understand that what had happened to them wasn't their fault. That they hadn't been weak or unstable. That they had been targeted. She really did it. J-Minute stood on the penthouse balcony, watching the Lagos skyline glitter beneath a clear night sky. The rain had finally stopped. She actually left. She actually confessed. Does that make it easier or harder? Zara joined him at the railing. Both. He turned to face her, the tattoo on his neck catching moonlight. Easier because the threat is gone. Harder because you want to hate her, but you can't. She's my sister. His voice was raw. She raised me. She was there every terrible night after our parents died. She held me while I cried and promised me I'd never be alone. And then she made show of it. Yes, by destroying everyone else. He closed his eyes. How do I reconcile those two people? The one who saved me and the one who imprisoned me. Maybe you don't. Zara moved closer, her hand finding his. Maybe you accept that both existed. That she was capable of love and damage in equal measure. That people are complicated and broken, and sometimes the ones who hurt us most are the ones who also mattered most. That sounds like wisdom. It sounds like survival. She lifted his hand, pressing a kiss to his knuckles. We don't have to figure everything out tonight. Or this month. Or this year. We have time now. Do we? His eyes opened, searching her face. After everything that's happened, the chaos, the danger, the uncertainty, do you still want this? Us. I want you. The words were simple. True. The you that exists without her shadow. The you that's still learning who he is. Whatever version of yourself you become, I want to be there for it. Even if I'm damaged. Everyone's damaged. The question is whether we're willing to heal together. His free hand came up, cupping her face. I love you, Zara. I know. No. I mean, he stepped closer, his forehead touching hers. I love you in a way I've never loved anyone. Because you're the first person who saw me clearly. Not the A. Not the prize to be protected. Just me. I see you, she whispered. I've always seen you. He kissed her. Different from before. Not desperate or fearful. This kiss was tender. Thorough. The kiss of someone who finally had time. Who finally believed in tomorrow. When they broke apart, they were both breathing unsteadily. Stay tonight, he said softly. I wasn't planning to leave. Stay forever. The words hung between them. Is that a proposal? Zara's heart was pounding. It's a beginning. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Of something I never thought I'd have. Of a life that's actually mine. Then yes. She smiled, the first genuine, uncomplicated smile in weeks. I'll stay. 3 months later, spring arrived in Lagos with its usual intensity, sunshine that demanded attention, humidity that clung like a second skin, streets exploding with color and noise and life. Zara's business had recovered. More than recovered. Thrived. The sabotage Sian had initiated had somehow transformed into opportunity. The investors who'd been warned away had investigated instead, found no irregularities, and doubled their support. The fabric warehouse had expanded. New contracts had materialized. Her designs were showing in Paris next season. But the greatest change was internal. For the first time in her adult life, Zara wasn't fighting alone. She woke to J-Minute beside her, still learning the geography of his face without tension tightening his jaw. She worked knowing he was building something parallel, a restructured foundation focused on mental health support for families affected by complicated grief. She fell asleep knowing tomorrow held no hidden threats. Peace, it turned out. Took getting used to. You're thinking again. J-Minute's voice was warm against her ear. Morning light filtered through the bedroom curtains, catching the tattoo on his neck. About how strange it is. Feeling safe. Strange good or strange bad? Strange. Unfamiliar. She turned in his arms, studying his face. 3 months had softened him, or perhaps revealed the softness that had always been there, buried beneath survival. I keep waiting for something to go wrong. Old habits. Very old. He pulled her closer, his lips brushing her forehead. Would it help if I reminded you that you're currently the most successful textile designer in West Africa, that you're in love with a man who adores you, and that the biggest threat to your happiness is currently undergoing intensive therapy on another continent? It might. Consider yourself reminded. He kissed her properly, slow and thorough. Also, we're having dinner with Amara tonight, and you promised not to work past 4. I promised conditionally. You promised unconditionally. I recorded it. You and your recordings. Learned from the best. She laughed, bright and unguarded, and felt something unlock in her chest. This was happiness. This was what it felt like when the storm finally passed. That evening, the restaurant was loud and crowded and perfect, one of Amara's favorite spots, chosen specifically because it made intimate conversation impossible. Zara suspected her friend was trying to observe them in a natural environment, gathering data for whatever judgment she'd eventually render. You look different, Amara announced, studying J-Minute across the table. Less constipated. Amara! Zara hissed. What? It's a compliment. Before, he looked like someone was permanently sitting on his chest. Now he looks merely moderately anxious. She turned to Zara. You've done excellent work. I haven't done anything. You've done everything. J-Minute's hand found hers beneath the table. She saw me when no one else did. She fought for me when everyone else, including myself, had given up. Amara's expression remained evaluative. And the sister? The table went quiet. She's still in treatment, J-Minute said carefully. We communicate occasionally. Letters mostly. She's making progress, according to her doctors. And you? Have you made progress in processing what she did? I'm working on it. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. It's complicated. She was my protector and my prison guard. I can't hate her completely, and I can't forgive her either. Not yet. That sounds remarkably healthy. Does it? Acknowledging complexity without forcing resolution. Yes. Amara's gaze softened fractionally. Most people want clean endings. Good versus evil. Heroes and villains. Real life doesn't work that way. No, J-Minute agreed quietly. It doesn't. Under the table, Zara squeezed his hand. Above it, Amara raised her glass. To complicated truths, she said, and the people brave enough to face them. They drank, and for the first time, the toast felt like a benediction rather than a prayer. 6 months later, the letter arrived without warning. Zara found it on J-Minute's desk, cream envelope, Korean postmark, handwriting she didn't recognize. He hadn't mentioned receiving correspondence from Seoul in weeks. She wants to come back. J-Minute's voice came from the doorway. He looked pale. The shadows under his eyes returned after months of absence. For how long? Permanently. She says her treatment has progressed enough that her doctors recommend reintegration into normal life. He crossed to the desk, picking up the envelope like it might burn him. She's asking for permission to return to Lagos. Zara's stomach tightened. What do you want to do? I don't know. He sank into his chair, the letter crumpling slightly in his grip. Part of me wants to say no. To keep her far away forever. To protect what we've built. And the other part hopes she's really changed. Wants to believe that the sister I remember, the one who held me after our parents died, who stayed up during thunderstorms because she knew I was afraid, still exists somewhere beneath everything that went wrong. Both reactions are valid. I know. You've told me that before. He looked up at her, his dark eyes conflicted. But I need to make a decision. And whatever I choose affects us both. Zara moved around the desk, perching on its edge beside his chair. Her hand found his hair, fingers tracing through the strands the way she knew calmed him. What does your gut say? That I'll never be free until I face her again. That avoiding this conversation is just another form of her controlling my choices. He leaned into her touch. But I'm afraid of being manipulated again. Of putting you in danger. Of watching everything we've built crumble because I couldn't say no to family. You're not the same person she manipulated before. Am I not? No. Zara tilted his face up, making him meet her eyes. That person didn't know he was being controlled. That person had never questioned the cage he lived in. You've questioned everything now. You've rebuilt yourself from the foundation up. With your help. With your courage. I just held space while you did the work. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, if she comes back, would you stay? Is that actually a question? It needs to be asked. Then yes. Zara's voice was firm. I didn't fight my way through the last 9 months to run at the first sign of difficulty. If Seon returns, we face it together. If she's really changed, we support that change cautiously. If she hasn't, we're ready. We're ready. He stood abruptly, pulling her against him. The letter fell forgotten to the floor as his arms wrapped around her, his face buried in her hair. I don't deserve you. Probably not. She smiled against his chest. But you're stuck with me anyway. Is that a promise? It's a fact. He pulled back slightly, his expression shifting to something more intentional. Then I should probably make it official. Zara's heart stopped. What? He reached into his pocket and produced a ring. Simple. Elegant. A single sapphire set in white gold, the stone's deep blue catching the light like captured ocean. I've been carrying this for 3 weeks, he admitted. Waiting for the right moment. This probably isn't it. My sister's potential return looming over us, both of us stressed and uncertain, but I'm tired of waiting for perfect conditions. J Minute. I love you. You've saved me in ways I'm still understanding. And I want to spend the rest of my life being worthy of what you've given me. He took her hand, positioning the ring at her fingertip. Zara Lawal, will you marry me? The world contracted to this moment. This man. This question. Yes, she breathed. Yes, of course yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, just like they did. 3 weeks later, Siyeon's return was negotiated carefully. Supervised meetings. Public locations. Jae-min's therapist present for the initial reunion. Every precaution that could be taken. The woman who arrived at the agreed-upon cafe bore little resemblance to the elegant predator from the gallery. Siyeon had gained weight. Healthy weight, where before she'd been sharp angles. Her hair was longer, softer. Her clothing was understated rather than theatrical. But it was her eyes that struck Zara most. The cold calculation was gone. In its place, uncertainty, vulnerability, fear. Either she's truly changed, Zara thought, or she's become an even better actress. Thank you for agreeing to see me. Siyeon's voice was subdued. She hadn't touched the tea in front of her. I know you had every reason to refuse. I had every reason to do many things. Jae-min's tone was neutral, careful. I chose this one. Because you're kind. Despite everything I did to make you hard. Because I need closure. Don't confuse strategy for kindness. Siyeon flinched slightly at the correction, but nodded. That's fair. Silence stretched between them. Zara watched the sibling dynamics playing out. 2 people who knew each other intimately, yet stood on opposite sides of a chasm neither was sure could be bridged. I've written letters, Siyeon said finally, to everyone I hurt. Not just general apologies, specific acknowledgments of what I did and how it affected them. Most haven't responded. That's appropriate. The ones who did respond. Mixed reactions. Some accepted my apology. Some told me I could never be forgiven. Both responses were valid. She paused. One woman, Adana, said she'd consider meeting me eventually, to hear my explanation in person. That's brave of her. It's more than I deserve. Yes. Jae-min's voice was flat. It is. Another silence. I'm not asking for our old relationship back, Siyeon continued. I understand that what we had was unhealthy, for both of us. But I hope, over time, we might build something new. Something with actual boundaries, where you're my brother, not my project. And Zara? Siyeon's gaze shifted to her. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other, the woman who had tried to destroy her, and the woman who had refused to be destroyed. I owe you an apology, Siyeon said quietly. Not just for the direct threats, but for the weeks of sabotage before that. Your business, your reputation. I was willing to burn your life to the ground to protect something that was never mine to protect. Why did you stop? Because I saw myself clearly for the first time. In that bathroom, when you recorded me, I heard my own words as someone else might hear them. And I realized I had become exactly what I always feared. Which was our mother. Siyeon's voice cracked. She was possessive too. Controlling. She loved our father so obsessively that when he died, she couldn't survive the loss. I watched that love destroy her, and I swore I would never be that person. But you became her anyway. Different target. Same obsession. Siyeon's hands trembled around her untouched tea. The therapists call it transferred attachment. I redirected all the unhealthy patterns onto my brother because it felt safer than romantic love. But it wasn't safer. It was just differently destructive. Zara considered this, the psychology of it, the generational trauma. It didn't excuse anything. But it explained. What do you want from us? She asked finally. Specifically. Concretely. The chance to be present in his life without being at its center. to meet for dinner occasionally, to attend family events without being the one controlling them. Seon's eyes met hers directly. And your permission to try. Because I know he won't rebuild a relationship with me if you're opposed. And I know you have every reason to oppose. You're right. I do. But Zara looked at Jae-minute, at the man she loved, who was watching this exchange with something like hope warring with fear in his expression. At the ring on her finger, the promise they'd made to face everything together. But I've seen what carrying unforgiveness does to people, she said slowly. And I've seen what happens when someone genuinely tries to change. I'm not saying I trust you. I'm not saying I'll ever trust you completely. But I'm willing to give you the chance to earn something. Over time. With verification. Seon's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is probationary. One manipulative move, one sign of the old patterns, and the door closes permanently. I understand. Do you? I do. Seon wiped her eyes. I've spent 18 months learning to understand. And I know that rebuilding trust isn't about intentions, it's about consistent actions over extended time. Then we'll see. The meeting ended shortly after, nothing resolved, but nothing destroyed either. A foundation laid. Whether anything could be built on it remained to be seen. Outside the cafe, Jae-minute exhaled heavily. That was terrifying, exhausting, cautiously hopeful. All of it. He pulled her against him, his lips brushing her hair. Thank you for being willing to try. I'm not doing it for her. I'm doing it for you. I know. That's why I'm thanking you. She leaned into him, feeling his heartbeat against her cheek. Steady now, where once it would have been racing with anxiety. Growth. Healing. Slow, painful progress toward something better. This was what survival looked like. 1 year later, they married in the dry season. The venue was Zara's choice, a restored colonial building in Victoria Island, its gardens overflowing with bougainvillea and frangipani. 300 guests from 2 continents, Nigerian drums and Korean strings. A collision of cultures that somehow became harmony. Zara's dress was her own design, traditional Nigerian lace transformed into a silhouette that moved like water. Indigo and gold, the colors of her earliest work, the fabric that Jae-minute had once called armor. Tonight, it was celebration. She found him waiting at the end of the aisle, devastating in traditional Korean hanbok adapted with African textile accents. His tattoo was visible at his collar, the memorial to his parents, the symbol of his dual heritage. He was crying. She'd never seen him cry from joy before. You came, he said when she reached him, absurd words, considering she was a bride. I'll always come, she replied. To you. The ceremony blurred together, vows exchanged in English and Korean and Yoruba, promises made before witnesses who had seen their entire journey. Amara stood at Zara's side, crying openly. Jae-minut's oldest friend from Seoul had flown in to stand at his, and in the third row, carefully positioned where she could be seen but not scented, Seon. She wore modest blue. Her expression was gentle, controlled, genuine. Over the past year, she had proven herself through consistent action, attending therapy, respecting boundaries, slowly rebuilding trust through small moments rather than grand gestures. She was not forgiven. She might never be completely forgiven. But she was present, permitted, making what amends she could. When the officiant pronounced the marriage, Jae-minute kissed her like the world was ending and beginning simultaneously. The crowd erupted, and Zara thought, this is what freedom tastes like. During the reception, you've done something impossible. The voice came from beside Zara as she stood at the edge of the dance floor, watching Jae-minute charm elderly relatives with his unexpected dancing ability. She turned to find Seon standing there, maintaining careful distance. What impossible thing is that? Given him joy. Unguarded, uncomplicated joy. Seon's gaze remained fixed on her brother. I don't think I've ever seen him like this. Even as a child, he was always watching, always waiting for the next loss. You helped create that vigilance. I know. No defensiveness. No deflection. I made him afraid to trust, afraid to love, and somehow you broke through anyway. Not somehow. Deliberately. Because he was worth the fight. Seon was quiet for a moment. He was always worth it. I just convinced myself that protecting him was the same as deserving him. She finally turned to face Zara. I'm grateful that you saw what I couldn't, that you stayed when everyone else left. You made them leave. Yes, and that will haunt me forever. Sion's expression was heavy with a weight that might never lift. But I'm trying to build something different now. Something that honors what he deserves rather than what I need. That's all any of us can do. Is it enough? Zara considered the question. Considered the past 2 years, the terror and the triumph, the destruction and the rebuilding, the slow painful work of transforming damaged people into something healthier. It's enough to keep trying, she said finally. The rest we figure out as we go. Across the dance floor, Jae-minute caught her eye, smiled, began making his way toward her through the crowd. He's coming for you, Sion observed. He always is. Then I'll leave you to it. She hesitated. Sister. The word hung between them, tentative, testing. Zara didn't embrace it, but she didn't reject it either. Sister, she acknowledged. And Sion melted back into the crowd just as Jae-minute arrived, his hands finding Zara's waist. What were you talking about? The future. Anything concerning. Nothing we can't handle. She rose onto her toes, kissing him softly. Dance with me. Forever. Just tonight would be a start. He laughed, bright and free, and swept her onto the floor. Around them, 2 worlds celebrated. Within them, something new took root. 5 years later, the house they built together stood at the edge of Lagos, where the city gave way to ocean. Modern architecture softened by abundant gardens. Space enough for the life they created, and the lives they hoped to create. Zara stood on the balcony, watching the sun set over the Atlantic, one hand resting on her pregnant belly. Inside, Jae-minute was arguing good-naturedly with Amora about business expansion strategies. The sound of his laughter drifted through the open doors. Frequent now, unguarded. The men who had once been carved from tension and silence had learned to live out loud. 5 years had changed them both. Her business had grown into an international brand. His foundation had expanded across 3 continents. Together, they had become a force, not for control, but for transformation. But the greatest changes were internal. She no longer woke expecting catastrophe. He no longer flinched when someone got too close. They had learned to trust each other and themselves. The scars remained. They always would. But scars could be worn proudly, could become markers of survival rather than shame. You're thinking again. Jae-minute's arms wrapped around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. The tattoo on his wrist had been modified over the years, new symbols added, new memorials, including one for the relationship they built together, a Yoruba symbol for strength and union. About how we got here. From the gallery. From everything. The moment I saw you and knew something was wrong. The first time you admitted the truth. The gala. The confrontation. All of it. Regrets? None. She turned in his arms, facing him. His face had softened with the years, still striking, still commanding, but marked now by laugh lines rather than tension. I would do it all again. Every terrifying moment. Even the parts where my sister threatened to destroy you. Even those. She smiled. They led me here. He kissed her, slow and thorough, the way he always did now. Like they had forever. Like nothing could threaten what they'd built. I love you, he said against her lips. I know. Say it back. I love you too. She pulled back slightly, her hand pressing against his chest, feeling his heartbeat. I love our life. I love what we're building. I love who we've become. Together. Always together. Behind them, Amara's voice called out something about dinner being ready. The ordinary sounds of ordinary life, meals and friends and the comforting routine of building a home. But before they went inside, Jae-minute pulled something from his pocket. A photograph. The gallery sent this. They are doing a retrospective of the exhibition where we met. He showed her the image, 2 figures standing before the drowning woman painting, caught in conversation. Apparently someone photographed us that night. Zara stared at the image, at the woman she'd been, guarded, observant, alone in a crowded room. At the man he'd been, tense, controlled, drowning in his own life. At the space between them, already charged, already transforming, already becoming something neither could have predicted. We look so young, she murmured. We look terrified. We were terrified. She touched the photograph gently. But we were also brave, choosing to stay when we could have walked away. You were brave. I was desperate. Desperation and bravery look similar from the outside. He laughed softly, tucking the photograph away. Frame it. Absolutely. Right next to the wedding photo. She took his hand. As a reminder. Of what? That the best things don't come easy. That love sometimes requires war. And that, she squeezed his fingers, the people who are worth fighting for are the ones who fight alongside you. He lifted her hand to his lips, kissing her ring. I would burn the world for you. I know. That's why I'm keeping an eye on you. His laughter echoed across the balcony. Inside, their future waited, imperfect, uncertain, gloriously possible. They walked toward it together. 7 years later, the letter arrived on a Tuesday. Seon's handwriting had become familiar over the years, careful, measured, the penmanship of someone who thought before each stroke. She wrote monthly now, respecting the boundaries they'd established, never pushing for more than she was offered. The relationship had evolved into something unexpected. Not close, never close again, but present, honest, healthy in ways the old dynamic had never been. Zara read the letter in the garden while her son played nearby, a dark-eyed boy of 3 who had inherited his father's intensity and his mother's stubbornness. He was currently explaining something serious to a lizard, his tiny face scrunched with concentration. Dear Zara, I write this knowing you may never share it with my brother, and that would be appropriate. Some things should exist only between women who have stood on opposite sides of a war. I am grateful. That word isn't adequate, but the adequate words don't exist in any language I speak. Grateful that you stayed when I tried to make you leave. Grateful that you saw through my manipulations to the broken person beneath. Grateful that you gave me the chance to become someone better, not for your sake, but for all the people I'd harmed along the way. My nephew sent me a drawing. A picture of his family, you, my brother, himself. In the corner, he added a small figure with the label Auntie Sue. I don't know if you know about this. I don't know if you approved. But seeing myself included, peripherally, tentatively, but included, in his vision of family, I wept. For an hour. This is what you gave me. Not forgiveness. I haven't earned that. May never earn it. But the chance to be present. To prove through years of consistent action that I can be something other than what I was. I am attending a support group now for people who have caused harm through obsessive attachment. I share my story. I listen to others. I try to help them understand what I've learned, that loving someone doesn't give you the right to own them, that protection can become prison, that the hardest thing is releasing your grip and trusting that love, real love, doesn't require control. I am also dating someone, a woman named Minute G who knows my entire history and chose to try anyway. It is terrifying and wonderful. I am learning to let myself be loved without needing to possess. I don't know if this information is welcome. Feel free to discard it if not. But I wanted you to know, the war you fought didn't just save my brother. It saved me too. With respect and gratitude, Seon. Zara lowered the letter. Across the garden, her son had abandoned the lizard negotiation and was now attempting to climb a tree far too large for his small frame. His father's voice called out from inside, warm, amused, offering assistance. She watched her husband emerge, sweeping their boy onto his shoulders with the easy grace of a man who had learned joy was safe, who had learned that love didn't have to be earned through performance or maintained through vigilance. The tattoo on his neck caught the sunlight, the ring on his finger gleamed, and somewhere in Seoul, a woman who had once been his prison was learning to build a healthy life of her own. This was what redemption looked like. Not clean, not complete, not tied with a bow, but real. Mama! Her son waved frantically from his father's shoulders. Come play. Zara folded the letter carefully, slipping it into her pocket. She would decide later whether to share it with Jae-minute. For now, she walked toward her family, toward the life they built from the ashes of obsession, toward the future they had fought for and won, not despite the darkness, through it. Thank you for joining this journey of obsession, survival, and the transformative power of love that refuses to break. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. And remember, The love worth having is the love worth fighting for.